Larry King is a man that needs no introduction, but just in case you...
Go ahead, introduce me.
This man is a broadcasting legend, having conducted over 50,000 interviews in the course of his illustrious career. And RT got a chance to sit down with the legend himself. Mr. King, thank you so much for the time.
I watch you in my hotel room.
That's fantastic.
RT, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very glad.
It's a very good English channel. Very well done. I covered the news very well. I was very impressed.
Thank you. Well, needless to say, we've all watched you for decades. And usually, of course, you're used to being in the interviewer's seat. So how does it feel with the tables turned?
I like communicating, so I like answering questions. I know what the interviewer wants. You know, they want some passion. They want to hear interesting things. I like it. I like both sides. I like the whole world of communications. I like the whole. That's all a great ball of wax to me.
Fantastic. Now, one of your last interviews was with Vladimir Putin, and you chose to interview him again after a 10-year gap, and that's even despite the fact that he wasn't even the president at that time. What was behind that decision?
Well, I didn't make the decisions. My producers, you know, I know how to do broadcasts. They know how to book guests, so they booked the guests over the years. I got along with Mr. Putin very well. When I met him at the UN conference some years ago, I didn't know it was 10 years ago. Was it
10 years?
But I immediately had a good rapport with him. I liked him very much. And so we thought of who would be the best guest. And I don't know if this is generally known, but he asked to come on.
He did?
Yeah, he said he watched the show almost all the time, and he knew I was leaving, and he'd like to come on. And then he invited me to come. I'm coming next May to Moscow to spend some time with him. Hard to explain, I had an affinity with him. You try to get that with a lot of guests. I really had it with, as I said to some friends of mine, Vladimir Putin, if he were American, would be a successful American politician. He has a quality, this had nothing to do with politics. They change a room. They have a certain magnetism, and he has it, whatever it is, he has it, and you really like that in a guest.
Obviously. When you interviewed him just over a year ago, he was still undecided about whether he's going to run for president again, but based on his rhetoric, on his kind of discussions, on the things that he said to you, did you think it was possible, or were you surprised when he decided to?
I was not surprised at all. He's too young. And the political life, you know, there's certain lives, like I miss hosting my show every night. I mean, I spend more time with my children. It was a decision I gladly made, but I don't think there's certain lives that you can't leave, and the political life is one of them. So unless you're in your 80s, the quest to be back, to run, you know, I've interviewed so many, and when you talk to a political leader who's either out of office or in a position without great power, which the position he holds is not a great power, the presidency is the power, you miss power. And Katerina, there's nothing like power. Is a aphrodisiac. And no one has more power than the head of a country. So you must miss it. You got to miss it. So no, I wasn't surprised at all that he'd come back.
You were talking about the it that he brings to the room, you know, the sort of magnetism and spark. But when you interviewed him back in the beginning, in his beginning, in 2008, the year 2000, when he was just elected president, what did you think of him? What was your impression?
I liked him right away. You know, the crew liked him. The crew that was with me, we were in New York for the UN conference. I loved his answer when I asked him what happened with the submarine, and you said it sunk. But that wonderful pause he took, I find him engaging. I liked him right away. You know, there's certain people that come into your life that you like. I liked him. Now, again, I'm not into the politics in Russia. I don't vote here. I don't participate in the inner politics. Whenever a country changes as much as this country had to change, I would imagine it's very difficult. I've always admired Mr. Gorbachev a great deal. I've interviewed him quite a few times. It's no easy pickings to take a country through a transition. And so what I try to do in interviewing is walk in the other man's shoes. Get in his shoes. What's it like to be him? It's a good way to learn things. You make good eye contact, and you want to draw them out. So I'm on their side to begin with, then I want to learn. So again, I'm not into the politics of Russia, but as a human being, I have a great affinity for him.
You mentioned, of course, that I think that bit of the interview that most people remember or talk about, the It Sunk episode. Do you think that was his lack of experience in public speaking, or was that him being kind of showing you that he didn't want to talk about a subject that was clearly very emotional and painful for him?
In retrospect, the answer was kind of brilliant.
Why?
You don't want to get in depth on something. You don't have all the facts. Obviously, the world of facts were not known. So what better way to say something than it sunk? I mean, it's one of those television moments that, for example, I was honored last week with a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Emmys, and that clip was they ran a whole series of clips, and that was included. And the whole audience roared at the way, because he took that pause. I think it was a combination of being new and being direct. George Bush told me that he liked him very much, and he liked him right away. I think he has that sense about him. Again, if I knew more about the politics of the issue, I just met someone who told me he was unhappy with Prime Minister Putin. He didn't like the way the government was going. He didn't think there were enough reforms. So he was unhappy. So when you go to a country and you hear, in Israel, if you gather 10 people, you get 11 opinions.
Exactly.
Like, for example, let's take another leader as Netanyahu. Netanyahu's a very controversial figure, but if you know him, he's extremely personable. A lot of fun to be with. I know him for years. So politics aside, sometimes you have to do that.
I guess it's the force of the personality, isn't it, that draws you?
And he has that personality.
Did you compare him, the man that you talked to last year, to the man that you talked to 10 years ago? Did he seem to you like he changed, that he'd gotten more savoir-faire, so to speak?
To be fair, the first time I was with him. The second time was satellite. Satellite's different.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, dear. That was very good.
Thank you.
I like your channel. Tell the people there.
Thank you so much.